Wish we had more time, but we'll fit in as much as we can. I have nuclear specialist Shaheen Gabati. He's a member of the NCRI. We're going to talk about Iran kind of being on empty after America took out 3 of their major nuclear facilities. Good morning, Shaheen.
Good morning to you and all your listeners. Sorry, the number given to me was misrepresented, so I'm a few minutes late. But
that's okay.
Let's delve into this.
It happens all of the time. Trust me on this one. All right, so I believe tyrants run Iran right now. The people over there do not like them. I've seen videos of women spitting on their posters and people begging the United States to help set them free. I don't think that that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to stop the nuclear weapon. That's the red line in the sand. We're not over there to revolutionize anything. We just want to stop them from being able to annihilate Israel and any part of the U.S.
Well, I think you touched on some very key issues. First of all, I think the most important issue is to realize that the overwhelming majority of the Iranian people, men and women, old and young, from all generations throughout the country, as vast as Iran is, want a regime change, but a regime change from bottom up. What I mean is that a change of the regime by the Iranian people, for the Iranian people, by the Iranian people. So I think that's very important. Number two is that in that regard, there is an indigenous resistance movement inside Iran in the form of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, which is a coalition of Iranian opposition movements, which is both anti-Shah, which is the former dictator, and anti-the mullahs, which is the current theocracy. And it wants to establish a democratic republic, very much the way that people are familiar with. But at the same time, it does not seek weapons from the United States. It does not seek money from the United States. It does not advocate boots on the ground, because it believes the task of the regime change is upon the Iranian people and their organized resistance, and solely theirs. Actually, just last Wednesday, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, Madam Maryam Rajavi, was addressing European Parliament, and she said, once again, she reiterated that the regime change is the ultimate solution for all the crises that the regime has created for the Iranian people, for the world, and for the whole Middle East. But that regime change should come only by the Iranian people and their organized resistance.
Yes, because if it comes from the outside, it's not going to last.
Absolutely. No, and one has to remember, I think what's something that has become very evident is that the underlying war in Iran is a war between this regime and the Iranian people. To put it in perspective, in the last 40 years, more than 120,000 Iranian dissidents have been executed by this regime solely because they stand up for democracy and human rights. That includes men and women, some of them as young as 13 years old, and some of them as old as 72, which clearly shows how wide a spectrum the opposition is against the tyrants ruling in Iran. While this number is very, very tragic, at the same time shows the level of the dissent in Iran. And there is a wide network of resistance activists in the form of resistance units now active in Iran that are affiliated with the People's Mujahedin Organization of Iran, also known as MEK, who are striving day in and day out with huge risk to bring about a change by fomenting another uprising in Iran.
So are the Iranian people happy that President Trump took this step and just said, you know what? We told you no nuclear weapons. You will not listen. You keep saying death to America, death to Israel. You've got Jordan. You've got Pakistan. You've got, my gosh, even Saudi Arabia saying, dudes, knock it off. We want to have commerce and peace in the Middle East, so we're not going to support you if you continue to act this way. We don't want a war in the Middle East. So are the Iranian people glad that they don't have to suffer under a nuclear regime?
Well, I think you raised a very important point. This whole nuclear program was unpatriotic to begin with. Not only innumerable number of lives have been lost because of this unpatriotic program, but also Iranians have suffered $2 trillion of economic damage. I mean, that's $2,000 billion of damage because of this program that nobody except the Ayatollah wants to continue, because they view it as a guarantor for the survival of their theocratic regime. So none of this is for the benefit of the Iranian people. And at the same time, one has to realize that this regime is, first of all, enemy of the Iranian people, then the enemy of the region, and enemy of the world. But again, what we are advocating is a regime change, because so long as this regime is there, you will not see peace, you will not see tranquility, you will not see an end to acquire nuclear weapons, you will not see an end to their support for proxy groups. That's in the DNA of this regime. But I have to reiterate, the task of getting this regime is to the Iranian people and their organized resistance. And they're up to the challenge. And the good thing is that there is a viable democratic alternative out there in the form of National Council of Resistance of Iran, which includes all the groups which are anti-Shah, who was the former dictator, which was voted by the Iranian people, and anti-mullahs, which are the current religious dictators.
Why do people like the Shah and the mullahs continue to take over, though? If the Iranian people don't want them, I mean, are they held at gunpoint, not allowed to vote, and just taken over? Is there a coup? I mean, why do they keep coming into power? It's one after the other.
That's a very good question. I think for the last 120 years, as Madam Rajavi has stated today, she actually welcomed this ceasefire because, you see, we believe that, as I said, the change should come from Iran, the change should be from bottom up. But at the same time, we believe, so far as the world is concerned, the policy should be no war but no appeasement, but changed by the Iranian people and their resistance. Now, having said this, in the last 120 years, the Iranian people have had many, many uprisings to bring about democracy, and two forces, hand in hand, have stood up against them. One are this current mullahs, and before that were the monarchists. And that's how they have stopped this. But I think the tide has turned against both of them now, and people are quite open-eyed that both of these trends and perceptions have to be rejected for a peaceful and democratic Iran, and that looms on the horizon after all these years.
Yeah.
You have to remember, in the last 7 years alone, there have been 5 major nationwide uprisings in Iran, and guess what? In this protest, Iranians chant no to oppressor, be the Shah or the supreme leader. It means that they are rejecting any form of dictatorship, which I think is very telling. And what's interesting is that you have people from all walks of life, all age groups, even Gen Zs are joining. So people of Iran are quite enlightened, and this time not only they know what they don't want, they also have a good idea what they want to replace it with, because there is a viable democratic alternative. The National Council of Resistance of Iran. It's led by a courageous woman called Madam Mariam Rajavi, who has been chosen to lead the resistance. She has articulated a 10-point plan for the future of Iran, which calls for separation of government and religion, which calls for total gender equality, which calls for total freedom, which calls for a non-nuclear Iran, which calls for good relationship with the rest of the world and market economy. And that's the type of Iran that we are advocating, and that's the Iran that the young people are joining and fighting for to bring it about.
Well, I hope it happens. We only have 2 minutes left due to the tardiness of the call, but I want to remind people, my main question has been the same, and I haven't gotten an answer on it yet. The planes that bombed Iran came from Missouri, from where I am. They came from our Air Force base. They came in, went 30+ thousand miles, and they very intricately took out targets the size of a washing machine and blew up those nuclear sites. Do the Iranian people cheer for that, or they are upset because of the collateral damage? I have a minute and a half left.
Sure. Actually, the Iranian people obviously see no interest in this nuclear program, as I said. They know it has nothing to do with them and their interest.
But are they glad we bombed it? Are they glad?
Well, obviously they cannot. Given the repressive situation, you don't expect them to come in the streets and clap. That cannot happen, if you see what I mean, because they are being ruled by the gunpoint. But at the same time, you see the regime was not able to rally any massive people around the flag, which a lot of people had purported to be, which clearly showed the sentiment of the Iranian people. And a lot of people, basically fled from the main cities, again, as a sentiment of their attitude toward this regime. Basically, they said, look, this is not our war, not under our name, basically. Mm-hmm. So you could see the sentiment of the Iranian people, but one has to realize, given the circumstances, they would show their true sentiment in their massive protests and uprisings, which looms on the horizon. That's where they will show their true sentiment towards this regime and all of its policies, including its nuclear program.
Well, Iran's running on empty right now. We blew up everything they had that they could fight with. Right now, they're like an ant trying to climb up a hill of weaponry because they can't stand up to us. the other countries around them will not stand up for them either, because they know they're in the wrong, because they continually are chanting. I don't know what the deal is with this religious war against Israel, when commerce could be so much more beneficial for the area if everybody could just get along. This wanting to kill everybody who disagrees with you is crazy to me, but we have a president who is not going to mess with the regime in Iran. And if they do not follow suit, he will not stop, and he will keep coming. And I hope the Iranian people know that we want the best for them. We want them to have freedom. I have 30 seconds. What would you like to say?
My message is that the Iranian people realize that the U.S. is not their enemy. They kept chanting, the enemy is here. They're lying to us that the U.S. is our enemy. Mm-hmm. They know they have one enemy and only one enemy, and that's the regime, and that's why they're supporting the resistance. So you are right. So long as this regime is there, you will see hatred, vengeance, because it's in the DNA of this regime. That's how they came to power, that's how they survived, and that's how they will be in power until they are ousted. All I'm saying is there is a viable democratic alternative, and the world public opinion and the government should be on the side of the Iranian people.